Finally, we know what Star Trek needed. Not captivating stories that challenge audiences to think long after the credits roll, or inspiring stories that influence the next generation of engineers, doctors, and scientists to reach for the stars. But according to the writers of Starfleet Academy, we were wrong. What we really needed was prank wars. You heard that right. This week, instead of learning how to prevent a warp core breach or negotiate a treaty with a Romulan bird of prey, our future officers are engaged in a prank war with the War College, fully encouraged by their chancellors. Today we're going to break down what exactly happened in Episode 3 of Starfleet Academy. The episode opens with a subplot involving Cadet Raimi and Cadet Genesis. To give credit where it's due, these two are actually trying to be the best cadets they can be. This is exactly what the show should be focusing on: the drive for excellence. However, their professionalism only serves to highlight how ridiculous everyone else is. While Raimi and Genesis are striving for perfection, their colleagues are living in filth. We see dorm rooms with clothes strewn all over the floor, a complete mess. I have to ask, in a military-style academy, how is this tolerated? It's a uniformed service. If you can't manage to keep your quarters clean, how are you going to manage during a Borg incursion? The episode then tries to establish Raimi and Genesis as physical equals, which brings up a recurring issue with the show's internal logic. How are two aliens from completely different species, with entirely different physiology and sizes, exactly matched in every physical metric? They tie in their drills, and the only way Raimi secures a win is by cheating. It feels like a forced parity that ignores the biological diversity Star Trek used to celebrate. This brings us to the core of the episode: the prank war. The A-plot centres on cadets hacking transporters and video screens, instead of useful classes. You know, things like operating a starship, interstellar diplomacy, or managing professional crewmen. The students are completely preoccupied with embarrassing one another. The premise is fundamentally strange. For some reason, the student body is broken into two rival colleges. We have the Standard Academy and then a War College. It feels like the writers are trying to emulate a romantasy novel, one of those tropes where people from opposite sides fall in love against the backdrop of a fake conflict. The problem is that this sacrifices the world building. How do these cadets integrate into a single crew at the end of their training if they've been taught to view their peers as the enemy for 4 years? In Enterprise, we saw the friction between Starfleet and the Makos, but that was a well-written, escalating conflict addressed by Captain Archer as soon as it threatened the mission. Here, it's just petty. The most egregious part of this episode is the Chancellor. Throughout the runtime, she is repeatedly shown lounging on furniture with her feet in the air. It's incredibly hard to take a commanding officer seriously when she carries herself like a teenager on a Saturday morning. She doesn't deal with the chaos. In fact, both she and her counterpart from the War College are just as much a part of the prank war as the cadets are. When the people at the top are engaging in the same juvenile behaviour as their subordinates, you know the institution is in trouble. We see the lack of leadership during a PT session, a scene that raises more questions than it answers. For example, why isn't the hologram the absolute gold standard for cardio and fitness? We see the hologram Sam participating in the games, but the rules are non-existent. She can't be shot in the game because she's a hologram, so is she just immortal? Does her team win every time by default? And then Sam appears in the changing rooms. When the Doctor on Voyager changed his appearance, he loaded different clothes. Do the writers know she doesn't have to get changed? The character dynamics continue to be a mess. During the PT session, a conflict breaks out with the War College. When someone from the Academy mentions they have a Klingon on their side, the Klingon just shakes his head. He doesn't want to fight. Now, I'm all for subverting tropes, but a Klingon in Starfleet who is pacifist to the point of cowardice feels like a bit much. He doesn't even want to take part in the laser tag game. Then we have Caleb trying to imply he's a lone wolf Sigma male, constantly reminding everyone how he doesn't need anyone else. Speaking of Caleb, he's apparently the only person in the Starfleet Academy class who knows how to hack. I'm not sure how he acquired these elite cyber skills while he was on the run for his entire life, or sitting in a prison cell. He also managed to get incredibly muscular on prison rations, which is a neat trick if you can pull it off. The boring romance plots also continue. If you want to see a well-written, nuanced romance in Trek, watch Someone to Watch Over Me, Similitude, or Rejoined. Even Resolutions had better writing than this. Next, we find ourselves in botany class. Unless they are learning how to use alien flora for survival in the field, I don't see why this is a general education requirement rather than a specialty. But of course, the cadets don't care about the lesson, they only care about the upcoming match against the War College. While the Klingon is avoiding violence and Caleb is being alpha, we have Sam the hologram licking dirt. There were so many good Doctor episodes in Voyager, but they can't even seem to find Sam something interesting to do in the background. The big game they play is essentially laser tag. They claim this simulates war, but it absolutely does not. The tactics are non-existent. Cadets are running directly at the enemy, with some hardly using the cover and others hugging it and screaming. If the goal is to train officers, they should be on a firing range learning how to aim or weapons maintenance, or playing a high-stakes game of velocity. They decide to settle the score by challenging the War College to an after-hours match. They lose miserably, and they break the replicators on purpose. I'm sure the hundreds of other cadets who weren't involved will be thrilled to eat emergency ration packs for the next week because our heroes were embarrassing themselves. As we reach the end of the episode, the cadets decide to prank the War College by increasing the growth rate of a plant. By morning, the plant is consuming the entire college and literally throwing students against the walls. The goal? To make them walk outside in their underwear and have to clean the plant out. Except the plant is a protected species, so they aren't allowed to kill it. This is treated as a genius move that ends the prank war. In reality, it's biological sabotage that could have killed someone. And speaking of DNA, the Klingon makes an eye from the Chancellor of the War College's DNA. If medical science is that advanced, why are people in this show still walking around with glasses? We've known since The Next Generation that Geordi LaForge didn't need glasses, and that was hundreds of years before this era. The writers don't even need to watch the old shows at this point, they just need to read their own scripts. In the end, we find out the Chancellor was hinting at this solution the whole time. She was a participant in the prank war because she wanted the cadets to learn patience and empathy. Where was the empathy? They didn't understand their opponents, they just found a more efficient way to humiliate them. The Chancellor says she can't lead through fear, but she fails to realise that discipline is not fear. Discipline is the foundation of Starfleet. When a ship is under fire, you need officers who follow orders and maintain composure. The episode ends with Discount Mel Robbins giving Caleb a pep talk about the let them theory.
It isn't on you to control anyone but yourself. Hard lesson.
There's one thing that you will never be able to control, ever, and that's other people. What other people do, what they say, what they believe, what they expect.
And Raimi learning that he can follow as well as lead. Overall, the plot was chaotic and disjointed. The Academy doesn't seem to be moving these cadets toward being officers. There are glimpses of hope, cadets like Raimi and Genesis, who actually want to improve, but they're being suffocated by a narrative that values prank wars over professional growth. I'll be covering every episode of this season to see if they can turn this around, so be sure to subscribe on your way out.